Just to start out, just how would you assess Brandon's first season as head coach?
Yeah, I think he handled things very well this year. It's great working with them, great working relationship. But I think you guys can tell too. I mean, he really has a great connection with our team and with our players. I think you saw that on a daily basis. And he has definitely brought an identity to this football team, which is step number one as you come in as a new head coach. So, yeah, I think the future is bright with where we are. We have a lot of work to do, obviously. But I think he handled a lot of situations, not to mention everything that goes on with COVID, which is not really part of the head coach's handbook. We thought he handled things very, very well this year.
And then just specifically with his decision making, obviously a change in terms of how aggressive the team was on fourth down. Just for you, how supportive are you of that approach, and how did you feel like that sort of materialized this season?
Yeah, I love the identity that we play with. I really do. I support him 100%. I'm a big believer in using data to make decisions, as is he. And it doesn't mean that there isn't context involved in that. I mean, we're not robots, but we're trying to put our players in position of strength and a position of advantage as much as we can. And I love the identity that we play with. I know on the outside, not everyone may agree with how we play, but it's who we are, and I love it, and it's what we are, and it's the way we're going to play moving forward. So you know what you get with us. We're going to play aggressive. It's not reckless. I really don't see it as reckless. All these decisions, even though they're made in real time, there's research involved in it prior to the game. There's also context involved in it too. Like I said, Brandon's not a robot to make decisions on the field, but you have to make quick decisions in real time. And I thought he did a really excellent job with that this year. And yeah, he's got my support behind that.
Thanks.
Nick.
Good morning, Tom. Thank you for doing this. Wanted to ask you, with the state of the affairs where they are as far as the team goes, 3 straight consecutive years without making the playoffs, what needs to change to get that streak over with? And then how secure are you with your job security as far as moving forward?
Yeah, I don't think a lot about job security, but I'll say this. I mean, I'm lucky and grateful to have this job. I love it. I love being a part of a team and leading a team at the highest level. So, but we all know in this job, nothing is guaranteed ever. And that's why there's a sense of urgency every single day. So that's just how we work. And as far as we get better for next year, it just means right now the focus is on 2021 on this particular team. And then as we put the plan together for this offseason, what we need to do. I mean, we were in mid-December, playing for a division lead in mid-December. So, but obviously we're not there yet because we didn't even make the tournament. So we do have work to do. Certainly wasn't a perfect product by any means, but I think if you're objective and you look at our team this season, I think it'd be hard to say that you don't see a bright future with this football team. But that's not to say that, it's a finished product. We know that. We know we still have work to do. But I think it's an exciting start with what Brandon's put together and what we have together as a team. I'm excited to get moving on it. The one positive of having this, this presser this week, to be like 2 weeks removed from the season. There's so much emotion after that last game. It's helped me a little bit kind of get a better perspective on what happened this past season, not so much focus on the last game of the season, to not remember what happened early in the year and the middle part of the year. But we have some really smart coaches. We have a really strong front office, great scouting staff. We'll have a really good plan for 2022.
And also, too, with you being the general manager in the current state of affairs in the NFL, with currently only one black head coach in the National Football League, what do you think needs to continue to happen to avoid this problem, having more opportunities for blacks and minority coaches in the National Football League, being able to get these opportunities, whether it be coaches or coordinators?
Yeah. This is the best part, I think. Watching this interview process from the outside, obviously, with the teams that have openings, and to see the amount of people that are being interviewed from all different backgrounds, mean, you're talking about for different GM jobs and head coaching jobs, interviewing 8, 10, 12 people. It didn't used to be like that. So I think having more exposure to know what's out there, because I can tell you for being in this league for as long as I have, and I do have a good amount of contacts and, just from networking and knowing people in this league, the pipeline is there. It's there. You just have to do the work. And I think we're seeing that with some of the names that I've seen interviewing for jobs. I mean, it's a really good group, not only coaching-wise, but general manager-wise. So hopefully, some of those continue to be hired. I know our numbers across the league going into 2021, excuse me, on the coordinator side, those numbers have increased. Hopefully those numbers will continue to increase. And again, that leads to that pipeline. But I know on our staff, even position coaches wise, we have a nice pipeline of coaches that are going to go on to bigger and better things at some point. So, but I'm assuming with this hiring period, I think you'll start to see, hopefully those numbers go up.
Do you also feel like you being in that position, other general managers need to continue to bring this topic and make this topic aware so that we don't fall into the same cracks that we've seen right now?
Yeah, it's a great point, Nick. It's up to us, head coaches and general managers, to develop the people that we have, whether it's assistant coaches or whether it's a scout or director of pro scouting, director of player personnel, kind of lend our advice that I was given when I was coming up this ladder, and develop our own, have them ready for jobs. Just in our case, JoJo Wooden is going to interview for the Chicago Bears job. Obviously, I think he's a great candidate for that job. Not just because he works here with us, because he's really smart and he came up the right way and he learned from the right people when he was with the New York Jets, and he's learned a little bit here. But it's our responsibility to develop our own in our organization. So that's a big part of it.
Thanks, Tom.
Sure.
Hey, Tom, going off what you said earlier, you mentioned the future is bright for this team. You got a good quarterback, you like the coach, but, going into your 10th season as a GM now, why hasn't it worked in years past? So many years with this team, not enough wins, not enough playoff appearances. Is anything you kind of could pinpoint to why the progress hasn't been as much as you would like to?
Yeah, that's such a general question to say that. Obviously, we haven't gone to the playoffs as much as we would have liked, but each season is really unique in its own. When I talked to the team the day after the Raiders game, the one thing I told to them, certainly for guys like Joey Bosa and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, guys that have been here a while, this was year one. This was year one with this football team, year one with Brandon Staley, year one in a stadium full of our fans, not an empty stadium, So we're going to build on this year. I'm not so much concerned what happened in years prior. Really just concerned on 2021, what happened, how it happened, how we can get better next year. But yeah, I see this more as a beginning than anything else.
And with such a good core group, like you mentioned, Keenan and Bosa and Justin, does that make you want to be a little more aggressive to kind of get this window and get a Super Bowl soon, like in the next 1 or 2 years, aggressive with the trades? I know you spend money in the free agency, but in terms of kind of trades and stuff like that, do you want to be a little more aggressive, kind of capitalize on this window?
I don't believe in windows, but we're in this to win it every year. So if that's the window, then that's fine. I don't know if making a trade will win a Super Bowl for us. If it's there and it will help, sure. I feel like we've been aggressive. It may not have been the aggressive that you think is there, but we've used free agency. We've been selective with it. Obviously, you guys kind of see where we are with that. I just don't believe, no matter what cap space you have, you can't build a team through free agency. You can certainly supplement it. We were aggressive with Corey Linsley last year. Like I said, we've always been selective with it more than anything else to supplement our roster. But look, we're in this to win every year. Everyone has a different definition of aggressive, but there's certainly a sense of urgency every year here with this football team with how we put it together.
And Tom, another question. Mike Williams had a career year with Brandon Staley and the coaching staff, Joe Lombardi. But he's scheduled to be a free agent in the offseason. Is he a priority for you to re-sign him in the coming months or weeks?
Yeah, well, we'll get into 2022 and that plan soon. But I'll tell you this with Mike, so happy and grateful we drafted him. Obviously his first year with us was really a medical redshirt. And I know I've said this before, every time he's had an opportunity to make a play for us, he does. So I didn't see this as a one-year thing with Mike this year. His second year in the year, he had 10 touchdowns. His third year, he had 1,000 yards and led the league in yards per catch. So, and then this coming year where we knew he's going to have more targets, we're going to expand where we use him on the field, and he produced again, career year in catches and yards. So he's had a great early career for us. I came down to the field for the Raiders game in overtime, and watching him play in overtime, he gave everything he had. Like, he had nothing left by the time he got to the end of that game. If we would have won that game, it would have been a performance we would have been talking about well after the fact. So I'm thankful we drafted him. I'm thankful he's here. We'll figure out the future moving forward. But he's a big part of this football team this year, and he has been in the past as well.
Thank you, Tom.
Fernando.
Tom, how would you evaluate your 9 years as the general manager of the Los Angeles/San Diego Chargers?
Yeah, I'm not really into giving retrospectives on my career. Like I said before, I'm focused on 2021. What we did well, what we didn't do well, how we can get better, how we get better for 2022. So maybe when my career is over, I'll sit back and kind of take a look at the grand scheme of it, how it went. But look, every year is different. Every year is unique. Next year's team is going to be different than this year's team on both sides of the ball. That's just the nature of this business. So that's really where my focus is right now.
With what did you kind of learn throughout this season then from whether it's you or the team or kind of this new direction that you guys have taken it, especially with Brandon Staley as a new head coach?
What did I learn this year?
Yeah, about what did you learn in this new season? I mean, you guys are obviously it's a new coach, a new kind of I don't know. It's not Mike McCoy. It's not Anthony Lynn. It's a new kind of team.
Yeah, I think no matter where your team is, no matter what your staff is, whether it's head coach, assistant coaches, you have to learn to adapt to the people that are around you. And same thing with roster building. You build a roster differently depending on where your team is in that current time. But certainly in my job's a huge problem-solving job, probably much more so than scouting. And part of that is just working with people. I mean, I'm called a general manager. I generally manage a lot of people, and there's a lot of people in this building that are really good at what they do. So try and bring everybody together, and that's part of the job. Obviously, this past year, a lot of turnover with the coaching staff, almost a brand new coaching staff, new ideas, new schemes, made it a fresh start, made it a fun start. I like where we are. I think, obviously, I wish we were in the playoffs. It was hard to handle not being a part of this. But I really like where we are with this group of people. And again, that changes year to year. Next year's team will be different than this year's team. And that's, the one thing as we do look to 2021 or 2022, and if you get one takeaway from this is, we're going to focus on the whole complete team going into next year. There won't be one side of the ball. There won't be one position group. There won't be one position. It's a complete look at the football team. And we're not just going to look at the offense and say, well, it was a top 5 offense, so we're all set there, and we're just going to look other places. It just doesn't work like that. It's just too complacent. It's going to be a different team next year. We're not going to have the same exact 11 starters on offense and defense. So it's going to be a total team focus as we move in through this offseason to get us where we need to be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning, Tom. Want to ask you about your thoughts on aggression, aggressive play calling. Clearly, you guys talked about this in the offseason, but was there a point any time during the season that you revisited this topic?
Put it this way, I trust our head coach 100%. I really do. He has a reason for everything that he does, and it is backed in research as well. I want to play aggressive football. Being here in Los Angeles, obviously our number one goal is to win, okay? 1A is to entertain on the way to winning. And if you watch us play this year, I think it'd be hard-pressed to say that we're not an exciting football team. We throw the ball a lot. We throw the ball downfield. We have playmakers on both sides of the ball, and we play with an aggressive mentality to go win the game. We're even a mentality that we're not playing to get to overtime. We're playing to win the game. That's the goal. So that's the tempo that we play. I love it. I think it's fun. I think it's exciting to watch. So I'm with Brandon 100%, and that's one of the reasons why we hired him.
Well, I wasn't getting at that you weren't pleased or satisfied with his production. Was that ever a topic that you guys broached kind of midway through the season? Let's cool it. Let's take it down a notch. Just wondering if that conversation was ever had.
Okay. I apologize for not answering your first question the right way. But the answer to the second, that follow-up, no, there was no discussion of that during the season. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Would you kindly pinpoint some of the challenges that you guys overcame with the brand new coach, with the brand new first-time head coach, that maybe we didn't see, that was invisible to anybody outside the facility?
Well, and this isn't unique to Brandon, but anytime there's a new head coach, there's a lot of changes. And for this year, talking about two sides of the ball were pretty big schematic changes for us. So part of that is a transition, and it takes time. So that's a challenge that we knew was going to be there. It certainly didn't scare us, but that's just natural to this league.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Joe.
Hey, Tom, just since news came out last Friday about Darius and changes in special teams, what were the discussions with Brandon about those moves and why it was made?
Sure. I think our special teams, there was improvement from 20 to 2021. I think there was improvement in the season this year, certainly. And I really think Darius is a good football coach. And I don't think he'll be out of work for long. I still think he has a bright future in this league. I do think Brandon wants the perfect fit of his coaching staff, and he wants to get that fit done as early as possible. So it just didn't quite work out as far as being the perfect fit for what he's looking for. This is a tough business, but I also do believe both Darius and Mayer, they're good coaches. They did a good job for us. There was definite improvement from one year to the next, and like I said, even improvement in season. Those guys will work in this league, and they have great futures, but just wasn't the perfect fit for us right now. And we're gonna kind of take a bigger look at it and see where we are. But yeah, those are tough decisions, really are. But that was the move that we felt like we had to make.
In terms of wrong fit, Tom, was it more philosophy or personality? A little bit of both?
No, it's just a general feel, Joe, without getting into the specifics. I think our schemes were solid. That was an issue. Work ethic was outstanding, and they were great to work with. As a front office, you work a lot with the special teams coaches when it comes to personnel, certainly with specialists as well. They know the league very well. So worked a lot with those guys on a daily basis, really enjoyed it. But like I said, just wasn't the perfect fit in the end. So, we're in the process right now of interviewing a pretty big group of coaches, and there still may be more to come. And when we have a hire for you, we'll let you know.
And then I know you mentioned Joe interviewed with Chicago. We know Joe interviewed for the Houston head coach opening. Just any other positions at JoJo or any of the other assistants been searched out for openings?
At this point, no.
Okay, thanks.
Jeff.
Hey, Tom. I will ask a fan type question. That would be, what would you say to fans who have lost patience with you specifically? Just, you're going into your 10th year, I believe, right? Who would say, how can they keep doing the same thing? The team's hasn't won enough playoff games, hasn't done enough.
Yeah, I understand. I think if you watch our team on the field this year, objectively, like I said, I think it's hard to look at this team and not be excited for the future. We play an exciting brand of football. We have a lot of playmakers on the field. We're not that far away. I mean, at mid-December, we're playing for a division lead, okay? But when our best was needed late in the year, we just didn't quite have it, which is why we weren't in the playoffs. So I understand the fan frustration. I really do. There's a sense of urgency in the building. There always has been since I've been here. So, we just got to keep working at it and try and get over that hump to get in the tournament and then make a run from there. But I think if you look where the roster is right now, you look where our coaching staff is right now, and when I look at the support that I see, in the stadium, in town, I mean, to me, this has been a pretty big transformation this past year. And a lot of it has to do with the 2021 team. The identity that they have, how we play. I feel the support and I can see it. You see it on game day, which going into this year was completely new. We didn't know what we were going to see first year in a new stadium. It's, basically a new market for us. So I think there's a lot there to be proud of with this football team and how they play. And we're just going to keep working at it. And I understand people want results right now, and they should have results right now. But this team is different than the team a couple years ago. I'm really just focused on 2021 and then getting better for 2022. So I guess that's the only way I can answer that question, Jeff.
You've mentioned a few times that, going into that Kansas City game, you guys are playing for first place. And looking back now, what happened the last few weeks? Have you been able to, just as a staff, have you guys figured out anything that where it turned and what happened the last few weeks in Houston and some of the other things we saw?
Yeah, and then Las Vegas. We just didn't play our best when our best was needed. And obviously the focus is late in the year, but obviously we had the whole year to try and pick up a little bit extra ground. But I will say this, and I know it's going to be a big topic, and I understand it should be. When you look to where our defense was this year, and look, accountability is taking ownership. It's also taking blame, so however you want it to define that. But I'll take the responsibility that our defense did not play up to the expectations that we had for them. As I looked at this team the defense moving into this year, certainly knew it was going to be a different scheme, new system, new coaches. But I felt like at all three levels, we had a playmaker or playmakers at all three levels, plus with high football character, high football intelligence, it should be pretty seamless, okay? But I can't argue with the numbers. I mean, we were bottom 5 in most points allowed, bottom 5 on third down, bottom 5 in red zone. Those are pretty key categories and kind of middle of the road on takeaways. So obviously I overestimated where we may be with that because I love the scheme, I love the system, and I love the coaching staff. We were just, if we had gotten a little bit more, we'd probably be still playing. Now we need a lot more, but this year if we just had a little bit more, we just didn't quite get there. So as we move into next year, and we have a lot of work to do, but obviously another year of learning and repetition, I think that's going to help a lot. Another year of player development, that's going to help. Another year, and this is really both sides of the ball, but there's going to be some addition and subtraction, which is normal. And then we're going to get back after it again. But it was frustrating. We just didn't get the stops that we needed to get. We didn't get enough stops. We got some, but not enough. And a lot of times it's some things that take no talent. Alignment, assignment, and technique. It's three things that any player can do, and it's so important in defense. And if you're just a little bit off of one of those, a 2-yard run turns into 8. A 4-yard run turns into 10. And it just may be a little thing that's off, and we just didn't get to that point consistent enough. So, but I guess that all being said, we just didn't have enough at the end to get it done.
When we talked to Brandon after the season, he mentioned a couple of times about the defense. He said, well, first thing is we got to get the right players in here, then we got to coach them and all that. When he says right players, are you going to be looking for other different characteristics or anything, in this, as you look to kind of retool the roster? Are you looking for different things in the past? Is there something with Brandon's?
Sure, there'll be some different things. Anytime you change coordinators or change head coaches, there are going to be maybe some different characteristics you're looking for. We still had enough this year. I mean, you look at, Linval Joseph has played at a high level for us for 2 years. He's played well. He was challenged at the end of the year with a shoulder and COVID. I understand that. So that, that hurt a little bit. Justin Jones, when he's in the game, he makes things happen. So we had some players there. It just didn't quite get to where it needed to be this year. Doesn't mean we can't get there next year. But yeah, there's going to be some addition and subtraction to this football team, not just on the front, but in all three levels. It's just kind of natural. But yes, there will be probably some characteristics that are a little more important with what we're asking players to do now than say before. But that's nothing new to us. That's not like a new phenomenon for us.
Okay, thank you.
Derek.
Hey, Tom, good to see you.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
Yourself? Somebody touched on a little bit earlier. I wanted to expand on with analytics is kind of just this big catch-all phrase now that people use. You mentioned that there's a data gathering going on. Can you talk us through, maybe not getting into too many specifics, how much data you're gathering, how deep you're getting, and where you're looking for it?
Every year it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. When I started in the league 26 years ago, we just didn't have as much information as we have now, but we still used it. We call it the numbers. We didn't use the buzzword analytics at the time. On the coaching side, they've always used data to try and predict what teams are going to run and when they're going to run it. That goes all the way back pre-Paul Brown. But obviously nowadays there's just a lot more data points. And part of our job is taking everything we have and narrowing it down to what we think works for us and what we think has no correlation. But certainly on the player acquisition side, there's a good amount, and on the coaching side, there's a lot. And it's more than just fourth down and 2-point conversions. It's much bigger than that. It all goes into game planning, both offense and defense. Everybody does it. It's an edge you have to have. The biggest edge, we all have similar numbers, but the edge is how you use them. And I really like where we are with that right now. It's not exactly perfect of the finished product, but I like how we're using the information we have, whether it's coaching or whether it's in player acquisition, just to try and increase our odds of making the right decision. It's a probability-based decision-making process is what it all comes down to, and we're trying to put ourselves in the best possible chance to make that decision rather than just kind of making it from your gut of what you think could happen. Well, I'd like to see some data behind that to help us make that decision. So it's just it's a factor that just helps us more than anything else. Doesn't make the decision for us, but it makes that decision hopefully a better probability of being successful.
Yeah, you kind of led me into the next thing I wanted to ask, following up on that. Context is a big deal. We all know, even in the scientific method, your numbers are only as good as you apply them. So
Yes.
Are you happy right now with how the data that you are gathering, the context in which it's being applied?
I am, and that's why this is the people business, and it's the people that make the decisions in the end. There are always other factors going on. You just think about a football game, of all the things that go on in the course of a football game that a head coach has to keep track of on the football field. So you need a sharp, smart, quick decision maker in those instances, which Brandon is.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Tom, how are you doing?
Good.
Can you talk about the value of having the Alex G. Spanos coaching fellowship? What does that mean for your organization?
That's very important because it gives people opportunities a couple different ways. One, education and learning, getting in the building every day, working with the coaching staff, and that's a position you're talking about. But working every day with the coaching staff and just learning the position. And it's also great for networking because once you get in the league and you meet more people, and inevitably in this business, a coach you work with today leaves and goes somewhere else, and then your tree gets even bigger. So it just gives people more opportunities to get that experience, to get their foot in the door. And that's the big thing is you need that opportunity to get your foot in the door, and then once you get that chance, it's up to you what you do with it. But you need to get that opportunity. And I tell that to everybody, however you got here, this is your chance to show what you can do. And this is a production-based business, and it's not a business where we just play to compete. We have to win. And if we don't win, then there'll be somebody else in our jobs. So you have to come in and produce. And those who produce usually go on to pretty good careers, and those who don't kind of fall by the wayside. But the biggest thing, though, is getting that chance. So that's why that's so important, not only on the coaching side, but also on the player personnel side.
And so how vital is it to keep aspiring coaches into that pipeline that you talked about earlier?
It's critical. Like I said, you just need the opportunity to get in.
Okay.
So that's part of that. And I think, speaking from the player personnel side, a lot of it is to give, whether it's a former player or whoever, give them a look of what the job's like. You may like it, you may not like it, but just get the opportunity to see what this job is really like, to see if it fits for you or not. But yeah, it's critical to have those positions available probably throughout your organization, not just scouting and coaching, to give people opportunities to show what they can do.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
No problem, Dennis.
Back to Pop.
Hey, Tom, you mentioned that, you felt like you overestimated what you had defensively. Was that overestimating the, talent that you had starting, outside of those, Derwin and Joey and those star players? Was it overestimating, the depth that you had after, going through some attrition? Was it overestimating, how the pieces would fit in to the new scheme? Is it a combination of sort of all
It was
those
more
things?
the transition. I thought the transition would be more seamless and quicker than it was. I actually thought we'd take much longer on offense than defense, but that's kind of how it worked out. On the overall football team, I didn't see a depth issue. To me, the depth helped us get to where we were in mid-December to be where we were with this football team. But it just didn't come along as quickly enough on defense as I thought it would. And, we're going to kind of analyze it this offseason. It's more of a deep dive than an answer you could put on Twitter to see exactly why not. But that's my responsibility to get that fixed. And I do think we'll see some pretty good jumps next year, naturally, because I really do love the scheme. But we just didn't get to where we need to go this year.
Just talking to Brandon a couple weeks ago, he said he felt like, offensively, just the way that you guys were structured cap-wise, there was a real opportunity to sort of overhaul that side of the ball heading into this season. Obviously, you guys, signed 3 new starting offensive linemen, drafted Rashawn. And he said he felt like defensively with the way, the number of free agents you guys have a similar opportunity to sort of affect that side of the ball. And I know you're looking at, the complete team, but just how much of an opportunity is there here defensively to maybe bring in more players who fit what Brandon's trying to do better?
You can't take your focus off the full football team. You just can't. I'm not going to look at the offense and just say we're all ready to go. So it's a complete look, a balanced look. You're right, last year, the offensive line, but that offensive line had 3 UFAs, and then our right guard we released. So there was going to be change there no matter what. Certainly on the defensive line right now, we've got at least 3 UFAs, I think. But it's going to be a complete balanced look at this football team. That's the way you have to build it. You just can't rely on one side of the ball. It was good last year. We'll be fine moving forward. Certainly there'll probably be some change on defense, but that's kind of natural. And I think there's a lot of players here that fit in just fine, but it may take a little bit more time. So it's like putting a big puzzle together, Daniel. We're trying to find the best pieces to fit in there. It's not perfect by any means, but there's still a lot there to work with.
And then just when you're mentioning some of the pitfalls defensively, the one thing you didn't bring up was the run defense. And just talking to Brandon, he mentioned that, bolstering defensive line and the defensive front he said it's going to be at the center of our approach this offseason. Are you aligned in that? What do you think happened with the run defense, and just how much work do you think there is to do on that defensive line to improve in stopping the run?
Yeah, I mean the run defense has to improve. I think he also said run defense is 11-man unit. It's about run fits. It's a lot like playing defense in basketball in the NBA. It's much less one-on-one defense. It's more team defense, and that's just the way that it is. We had a lot of stretches this year that the players that are out there did some pretty good things, but we weren't consistent enough by any means. So, but we got to take a good look at that, and we got to get better. There's no doubt about that. Some of it's alignment assignment technique, some of it's personnel. And some of it's just being the second year of the defense. Run defense is very important. We can't be bottom 5 in anything. Pass rush and coverage are probably a little more important to me. But we have to get to that point. And getting to that point is being able to stop the run when you need to stop the run. We did in different parts of the season, but just not nearly consistent enough.
Thanks.
Over.
Yeah, Tom, we often ask about Jared Taylor because he was a former first-round pick, but how would you kind of evaluate his season this past year?
Yeah, Jerry has a lot of skills that we really like, and he has that on-field demeanor that we like. So, Jerry, new defense, but he came along. He's big, he's long, he's tough, he's durable, he's flexible, and he's gotten better each year. And he has the dimensions we're looking for in that spot, and he plays hard. He gets everything he has every snap. So he'll continue to get better. He certainly fits in what we want to do up front. Is he the finished product? No, he's not. Like a lot of our players are not the finished product yet. You look at what Kaiser White did this year. His 4th year in the league, took a huge jump, played a great football for us. Doesn't always come along right out of the package the way Rashawn Slater did. So, but no, Jerry has a lot of things that we like, skill set that we like, and a demeanor on the field that we really enjoy watching play.
And with Jerry, he has a 5th-year option coming up. Will you pick that up?
Yeah, like I said with Mike, as far as those decisions, we got time on that stuff to try and figure out exactly what the plan will be for next year. Concerned right now with just kind of getting through 2021 and trying to get through that aftermath and then put the plan together for next year.
I'm going to try one more time with Derwin James, Tom
Sure.
Telesco. With Derwin, he has one more year left in his contract, but with the year he's had, he recovered, he bounced back pretty well. Could an extension get done this offseason with him?
I think you know what DJ means to this football team. So, but all those things, I'm really not focused on that right now. I'm trying to focus on 2021, what we did, what we have to get better. But that one's no secret as far as what he means to the defense and the whole football team. I can't say enough good things about him as a player and as a person, as a leader for us. Big part of this, major part of this.
Thank you, Tom.
Tim.
Hey, Tom. Obviously, Justin performed much better. Well, I don't know much better than you anticipated, but he performed pretty well, above standards, I would say. What else went well for this team that in 2021 that you enjoyed? What are some of those things that you want to share?
I guess a couple of things. I said this earlier. I really feel like this team kind of transformed. I mean, I say organization, that may be a little big, but how they played, their style of play, the resolve that they showed in games. We're never out of a game, especially with Justin. But there were a lot of positive moments in this year with this football team, Justin being one of them. And, even on offense, we had some groups on offense step up when we needed them. We went essentially 9 deep on the offensive line. We lost our right guard, right tackle early in the season. That group did tremendously, the front. I know everyone wants to focus on the last game of the year. I know Max Crosby is a challenge. He was a challenge for Storm. Max is one. Max, to me, reminds me a lot of Jared Allen when he was in this league. If you guys go back and look at Jared Allen was one of the harder players to block, probably early 2000s. That's the way Max plays. But you look overall, that offensive line, we threw for 5,000 yards, ran for 1,800 yards. We ran the ball when we had to run it, which is the fourth quarter of games we had the lead. We held the ball for 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes sometimes with those 5 offensive linemen. Our sack numbers were top 5 least allowed. Our pressures allowed were top 5 least allowed. And that's from that whole group of 5. That's not just all Rashawn Slater or Corey Linsley. That's all 5 of those guys. So really proud of that group. I'm proud of the tight end group. And we lost Hunter Henry. That was a big thing here. Hunter, player we drafted, player we love, highly productive for us. That tight end group gave us 90 catches and did it in different ways. So just a great, group, great depth from that position. So offensively, we did some great things. Austin Eckler obviously had a huge year for us. We threw the ball well. Defensively, we had our moments, but not enough. But there's just a lot to work with here. And it's exciting football. So we just got to keep building on that.
Also, Tom, you've mentioned it a few times that you're focused on kind of 2021, not really working on 2022 quite yet. But I want to ask you a question about the free agency, and kind of a 2-part question in free agency is where do you apply most of your attention to? Is it your free agents that are on your team, or are you looking to upgrade the talent on your team in different roles, different spots? Do you look outside that first? So are you looking at your free agents first, or are you looking at outside free agents that can help you bolster your depth at different positions? Yeah,
great question. If you follow us long enough, you can kind of see what our philosophy is. We'd rather draft and develop our own and sign our own where we can. We know it can't be everybody, but that's our desire. We have a lot of cap space this year. It doesn't change how we'll approach free agency. I mean, we have to budget for the future. We've got 6 Pro Bowlers and 3 of them are on rookie contracts, so that has to be in the back of your mind. But our philosophy in free agency is we're selective. But we've also been relatively successful with those signings. Not hit on all of them. Nobody does. But as far as the money we've paid out to players and production that we've received, I've been very happy with that. But it's more selective based. Our first priority is to reward our own where it's needed. And then we'll go from there and look on the outside and see what players really fit what we want to do here. Free agency is very difficult to find the right players to come in and fit at the right time. It's very difficult. The draft is much easier in that regard. So, but we have to pair them both. You just can't try and just draft your way through this. You have to add through free agency. So that's part of it. But, our philosophy, kind of is what it's been. It's probably what it will be moving forward. Doesn't mean we're not aggressive with it, but we're selective with it, and we think it works.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate that.
Matt.
First question, Tom, is that a team-issued quarter zip?
It's actually a league-issued quarter zip, but yes.
All right. I was going to say, it looks a little tight. I was thinking maybe your shoulders are a little more broad than mine. You might want to go a size up and, want to figure out what to do with that nice two-tone powder blue on powder blue. Just plant that seed. Just a little observation from the way the camera's hitting the shoulders there.
Appreciate that.
Welcome. That's what I'm here for. Second question. You said it's probably good that this is 2 weeks removed to kind of get away from the game. Would you care to share kind of why was it play? Was it call? Like, was there something about that game that affected you that you're happy you didn't have to talk to us right after it?
Yeah, I mean, professionally, it was one of the most difficult defeats I've been through because when I looked at this football team, this 2021 football team, you only get one chance with this team. This team will change next year. And I just felt like we had enough to be a playoff team and get in and show what we could do. And it didn't happen. So, no matter how we lost, it probably would have hurt. But even that game where we didn't play our best in that game, that was easy to see. But man, the fight that team showed all the way through, and then, to have it end basically on the last second of the last game of the year, the last play of the year, and you're out. Hard to take with all the work that everybody puts into this, because you also know this is our last chance with this team, because every team's a little bit different. And I could also tell just the support this team has gotten this past year locally. So you want to capitalize on that and show the people the results. I think somebody asked that before. You want to show the people these are the results. This is a playoff team, and we're going to make a run at this. So yeah, it was difficult, and it's just natural when you're emotional. It's an emotional game. We're all emotional about it. It's hard to speak right after the game when people want to know the why. You got to really look at the whole season, not just that last game. So it just gives a little bit more perspective. I mean, I could still probably use some more, but obviously it is what it is. So, but yeah, I think time helps. Time helps heal that a little bit and give a better perspective of what you need to do.
When you're out of the tournament and games are still being played, are you watching the way other teams are playing, say the Chiefs or the Titans that finished with the best record, and trying to figure out, do we have the right personnel? Is there something going on in these games? Because the Chiefs have been on top for 3 years now that we need to get better, that we have to have this particular type of personnel because this seems to be working. Do you watch games with that frame of reference?
A little bit. Yeah, because you can usually tell in the playoffs are good versus good. When a team loses in the playoffs, a lot of times, whatever their weakest link was just gets magnified. I wouldn't say that's 100% of the time, but that happens a lot. We're constantly looking at how we match up with everybody else, but I also want to watch how they match up with us. So it's not just a one-way street, it's a two-way street. But there's no doubt. I mean, I would love to sit back and not watch the playoffs because it's hard to watch when you're not in it. But just from a professional standpoint, yeah, I'm watching. I'll also probably watch it on video as well. Because those are the teams that we're going to be competing with every year, like you just said, with Kansas City. So, yeah, the work's never done. It's not like a leisurely watch of a playoff game.
All right, because I was going to have a party and invite you over, but that's all right. I guess you'll do it your own way.
Yeah, I'll do it my own way,
Thanks.
Money.
Thanks,
Our
Tom.
way.
Yeah.
Back to Pop.
Just with Storm Norton at right tackle, I know you mentioned that like overall the offensive line pass protected well, but Storm specifically, he had positive moments obviously, but the rough moments, Cowboys game, Patriots game, obviously that Raiders game, obviously, jumped out. Are you comfortable with him as your starting right tackle going into 2022, or do you feel like you need an upgrade there to strengthen the offensive line as a whole? I mean,
just as a general, you're always looking to get better across the roster, but Storm had his moments, played some really good players. Rashawn Slater is an all-pro as a rookie. He gave up 5 sacks. Storm gave up 9. Okay. I know Storm gave up more, a good amount of pressures. I get it. He also played well in a lot of games for us. And he was also part of a group that put up top 5 offensive numbers this year. So he was doing something right, and he went in and battled for us. So we'll just see how it plays out. We'll just see how things play out. But he went in and really battled for us. He'll continue to get better. Certainly helps the depth of our offensive line to have someone like him step in and play how he did. I know we want to focus on how he played against Parsons and how he played against Max Crosby. He also did some pretty good things for us this year and was a critical part of us up front having those 5 guys play that our quarterback can put up the numbers that he did. Our quarterback is an excellent football player, but he needs blocking up front. He needs backs who can run the ball. He needs receivers and tight ends that can catch it and make plays for him. So he can't do it all on his own. Is every player on your offense going to be an all-pro or pro bowler? That's not the case. Will we have competition on that side of the line? More than likely, I would say so. So I don't think we're really into giving people positions right now. But for what Michael Schofield did at right guard for us and what Storm Norton did at right tackle for us, I'm proud of those guys because our offense scored a lot of points and moved the ball pretty well for us. So, and they're part of that. I don't think you can exclude those guys from that.
Just with Chenna Nwosu, he had a career season. Obviously, had an excellent game there. At the end, it seemed like he sort of improved and grew in the scheme over the course of the season. Obviously, he's a pending free agent. But just how did you feel like he performed in the scheme this year, and how do you think he sort of projects moving forward?
Yeah, I love Chenna. He produced in the last game. He produced in this game. It doesn't matter what scheme you play. He's going to produce. Love how he plays. Love the tempo he plays at. Love his toughness. He's a playmaker. He was a playmaker in college. He's been a playmaker with us. He closed out a playoff win against the Ravens with a strip sack of Lamar Jackson against Orlando Brown. It's a good tackle. It's a good quarterback. He made a huge play for us, won that game, and he's done that for us. So we'll see how things play out. But, there's really no part of his game that I don't like, and I love him as a person too. I mean, those are the type of guys you build around.
And then just with Kenneth Murray, you guys obviously gave up a pick to go get him a couple of years ago. I know he had the ankle issue earlier in the year, was sort of missed time and struggled to sort of find his place in the scheme. But just for you, where does he fit with this defense? Is it at stack linebacker? Is it in a hybrid role at edge and inside linebacker? Sort of where do you see him fitting?
I mean, I think he can do some different things, but I think in the end he's a inside linebacker, which is what we drafted him to play. So I think you're right. We love his skill set and we love his makeup. But I think you're right. He had some challenges this year between, a couple ankle injuries. One was, relatively severe. Everybody got COVID at some point this year, but he got COVID as well. And then we had a lot of different injuries on the defense where he's playing some different spots and playing a new defense. So yeah, it was a challenge for him this year. But like I said to start, we love his skill set, love his makeup. He's got a bright future. Just got to get him grooved, get him going, and I think we're going to be okay. But yeah, and I know it from his standpoint too, this was a challenge year for him. It seemed like as soon as you get going, whether it's an injury hits or COVID hits or, hey, look, we're really deep at inside linebacker this year, probably the deepest we've been since I've been here, and we need some help on the edge right now. And, you're the guy to do it. So I really, proud of him for, doing that for us.
Thanks.
Yeah. Tom, what are your thoughts about Michael Davis's season? Brandon has talked to us about how, Michael at times kind of struggled. He was asked to do more in this scheme and he just struggled in certain aspects in this scheme. What are your thoughts on how the season he had and just obviously last year you guys signed him to an extension. So just how are you feeling about his progress right now?
Yeah, well, Jeff trying to stay balanced with this because he made a lot of plays for us too. Okay, but I acknowledge that, yeah, there were some struggles out there as well. Michael is similar to what I just said about some other guys. Like, we love his skill set and we love his makeup. So when Michael came here from BYU as an undrafted free agent, Ryan Miles and Gus Bradley really did a great job developing him, his skills, and how he played in the last defense and what they asked him to do. And it really took off. And by the time he got to the end of his contract, he really turned into a really good starter in this league. Now it changed the defense, different things are asked of him. So there's going to be a learning point here. He was a developmental player when he came in. He's well past that at this point. But this is, we are asking him to do some things that are different than what he's done in the past. So he'll continue to get better because he has the mindset, the work ethic, and the skills, obviously. He's long arms, tall, and runs very well, and he's athletic. So he still has a lot of improvement to make, and he'll make it just with more time, more repetition, more learning.
With the special teams, in looking at the roster overall, and as you build now to next year, special teams has been a bit of an issue for a while here. It's up and down. Do you feel like, is that something that you're going to try to, I'm sure every year you try to build the roster as best you can, but specifically towards special teams. And I don't know if that means getting a couple of more veteran special team type guys, or kind of what's your thought process on that? Has it changed at all, or will it change at all going into next year?
Well, we made huge improvements on kickoff return. We're one of the top 5 in kickoff return this year. Top 5 in field goal percentage. And I don't take that for granted, guys, at all. Dustin Hopkins that came in did a great job. But look, we had a veteran kicker, a veteran punter, a veteran long snapper, a veteran returner, a veteran personal protector, a veteran gunner, and Ryan Smith, who was really making an impact for us before he got hurt. We have some veterans on that side. We have some younger players on the interior, say on punt, some younger players on kickoff team. That's not uncommon in this league. Thought a lot of our rookies made really big jumps through the year. Nick Neiman ended up top 5 in special teams tackles this year. But those guys brought a lot of energy to our special teams. Still have a lot to learn, but having players like that on your special teams is not uncommon in this league. So, but there's no doubt punt return, we've got to make much bigger improvements there. Obviously, we did better on kickoff returns this year, with better blocking, and then obviously a better return man. And then Dustin Hopkins really settled things down for us. Dustin did a great job with kickoffs and his kicks. So improvement there. Still got to make more, obviously. But I do think a lot of the young players we used this year, those guys have the traits we're looking for in special teams. They're fast, they're long, they hit, they're aggressive, they bring a lot of energy to covering kicks and punts. So we do have some pieces there.
Okay, thanks.
Eric.
Actually, that brings up a great idea I wasn't even thinking about, Tom. Down here in San Diego, Matt Ariza became kind of a bit of a cult hero for us. The punt god. How do you value punters? Can they be weapons at the National Football League level? We haven't really seen a kid do what he's done here. I believe the only punter you've drafted was Kaiser, and I think 2016, if I remember.
Yep.
But how do you view the value of a punter?
They have a lot of value because they flip the field. And if they can do it consistently, there's a ton of value. I mean, a punter is part of your defense. So he is a unique punter with the distance he puts on the ball. Not necessarily a lot of hang time, but the ball goes a long way. And he's a pretty good athlete, too. I'm hoping he's a senior or junior, because if he's a junior, I don't think I can even talk about him. But
well, he's a junior, but he declared.
Okay,
So
well, there we go.
He's leaving, yeah.
So I don't get fined. He's a really unique punter, and we're looking forward to doing more work on him. I got a chance to see him this year, and different than other punters I've seen come out of college in a long time. Just a totally different style, and he kicks offs and he does field goals as well. So really interesting player. And really, San Diego State had a great year this year, and they've got a couple players that are probably going to be, probably highly sought after for our league. They've done a great job down there, but he's a really unique player.
And then the guy I was actually going to ask originally about is Cam Thomas, the edge rusher. I know everybody's always looking for pass rush. I mean, you said a little bit earlier that's usually one of your bigger concerns. He also declared, even though he's a junior. Can you assess him a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, he's a size, high motor, really quick. So tons of production at San Diego State in that conference, and consistent every single week. That defense played hard, played aggressive. Not surprising, based on who their coaches are, what their staff's like. But certainly a player that stood out. Player I didn't know much about going into the season. Our scouts, I think, did. They're much farther ahead of me as far as who's out there during the fall than I am. Yeah, I'm assuming he'll be at the combine and we'll get a chance to meet him more. But really, not only is he a good player, but their team has had a great year this year. Really, really did.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.
Cam.
Hey, Tom. Thanks again for taking time to discuss things with us. I have a question for you about succession planning for your coaches. How do you handle how do you handle requests from other teams to interview your guys? And are coaches coming to you saying they want bigger roles? Is that how they get to a chance to move on? And is that kind of your role to help them move them on to bigger roles?
I have done that with coaches, say a position coach who sees this future as a coordinator or head coach, and what he can do to get better. I've worked with coordinators we've had on what the interview process will be like when you do interview to be a head coach, to try and give them a little bit of a game plan, a scouting report of what it's like, especially if you haven't done it before. I really enjoy doing that. Do we have coaches come in asking for bigger roles? I mean, the coaches that are here, they know what their roles are. And if a team wants to interview one of our coaches for a better position, we would always grant it. Now, there's certain instances that we have no choice; we have to grant it. But even before that rule went into effect, we've always, if a coach has a chance to move on to more responsibility, higher salary, move up the ladder, we would always allow that. That's how I got here. It's how Brandon got here. It's how we all got here. So I think it's just good for the staff to know that, our number one job here is to win games for the Chargers. We understand that. That's easy. That's unsaid. But I want to see our coaches and front office and scouts, better their careers too. And part of that, helps with morale. I want guys to feel like they're not just going to be the same job for their whole career, because you can get stale real quick. And we want to help that. We want to help develop that. And I learned a lot of that from Anthony Lynn. And that was his philosophy when he got here, is he really want to help his coaches continue to move on. If a coach leaves, we'll find another really good coach. There's plenty of coaches out there. There's never just one coach, and if you lose them, you can't function. And that was Anthony's philosophy when he got here, and it's Brandon's philosophy. And I think I love it, and it works. Does it mean you may have some extra change on your side? Yes, but it's our responsibility to have, the next guy ready to go. And some of that is having your, say, quality control coaches or say your scouting assistants ready and developed to take on a bigger role so you can build from within. If you can't build from within, then you may have to look from the outside.
Thanks for your time, Tom.
No problem, Cam.
A couple more for you, Tom, then Danny and Brooke can start transcribing. Pop.
Tom, we're about an hour in, and you haven't gotten a specific question about your quarterback. Just Brandon said, he felt a responsibility coming into the season to get it right with Justin from a scheme and sort of infrastructure standpoint. And he felt like, he did get it right based on the season he had. How did you feel like the coaching staff did as far as, developing Justin and the growth that he showed this season?
Yeah, coaching staff was tremendous. Started in training camp. I mean, it started in OTAs, but really started in earnest in training camp with how they want this to come together. And it's a big lift. I mean, Justin is a young quarterback with only 1 year under his belt. So things are still new for him. And now we're really changing the offense pretty dramatically. Thought they did a tremendous job with him. Obviously, Justin he's gifted physically. He's also gifted mentally. Not just smarts, but preparation, work ethic, and he has a drive to be great. It's a quiet drive, but it's a drive to be great, and you can feel it in the building. So to see his second year really start to see the preparation part, the Monday through Saturday of working downstairs, watching film, getting a better feel for what the team is trying to do to him. I think that's where Brandon is such a great influence on Justin, because Brandon gives him that other side, that other look of what the defense is trying to do to take things away from him. Because Brandon has that. Brandon can see the game through a quarterback's eyes, and Brandon can see the game through a coordinator's eyes, which is a great trait to have. And then watching the coaching relationship with Joe Lombardi and with Shane Day and with Frank Smith, to see those guys all work together, that's exciting. And I really just think we're still scratching the surface of what Joe really wants to do with this offense. And Justin's still a young player. He still has a lot in front of him. So, yeah, I couldn't be more happy with how that has developed, how that relationship between the head coach, the coordinator, quarterback coach, quarterback, and even the quarterback room with Chase Daniel and Easton Stick, how those three guys work together. I think that's really important in that position group, of how they work together, how they study the opponent during the week, how they question each other, how they support each other. Can't always be the coaches. You know, Shane and Joe have other work to do. They can't be with the quarterbacks 24/7, but those guys really work at it and they love it, and they get along well together. So, yeah, it was really great to see everything kind of come together. As you could tell this year, again, it's not the finished product. We had some bumps in the road early. We had some bumps in the road late, but man, there's a lot there to work with still.
Thanks.
All right, last one, Joe Reedy.
Tom, just your assessment of maybe the backup running back position. Seemed like it was kind of inconsistent until late in the year, but just your thoughts on Justin Jackson the last half of the year.
Yeah, I agree totally with how you phrased that. Inconsistent for a lot of the year. You saw when Justin got on the field, Justin gives us a spark. Ran well, blocked well. He's smart, he's patient, he has vision. And he's always produced when he's had the opportunity. You know, he's been held back a little bit by injuries here or there, but he's always produced for us. You know, Josh Kelly didn't get a ton of snaps. Still think Josh has some play in front of him. You know, Josh is going to have to be a running back and special teams role. But Josh runs downhill. He runs hard. He can convert first downs. So, but we're still looking for development from Josh. And Larry Roundtree started off well. But, you know, young player in this league, still learning. Again, his role's got to be running back and special teams. Still think there's a lot there with him. But as early, for young guys early on, yeah, it was just a little inconsistent behind Austin. You know, we can't, Austin had a tremendous year. Austin can handle a heavy workload, but he shouldn't have to. You know, we got to be able to rotate other guys in, and it has to be more than one guy just rotating in. We want to have it, you know, a really good committee there of running backs that we can use. But yeah, I think, you know, Justin, as you saw late in the year, you know, he ran the ball really well for us, and he can pass protect well too. Very smart. And he was a really key special teams player for us. Sorry.
That's okay. And then just with the relationship between Brandon and Ronaldo Hill, how did you see that grow throughout the year? And are you happy with how much did Brandon delegates to Ronaldo just during games and during the week?
Yeah, I think it was, you know, they had a relationship coming in, so I think that helps. This is my first time having a head coach really having a strong influence on one side of the ball, which really means, you know, calling the defense. But I love what Ronaldo's done and what he's doing. He's a high-level coordinator in this league. He has a great connection point with the players. Obviously knows the scheme really well. Works tremendously well with Brandon. And, you know, he does have to pick up a lot of work because Brandon, you know, Brandon's also the head coach. So there's some things that will pull him away, you know, from a defensive meeting, you know, defensive install. But Ronaldo has the right temperament. He played in this league, knows the league well. So I thought they worked really well together, you know, in the first year, and it's going to continue to get a lot better.
And then I know you're not much into career retrospectives and stuff, so I'll try to rephrase this another way.
Sure.
What did you learn from 19 and 20 that you applied to this past year's? And, you know, after getting into the playoffs in 18 and missing the past 2 years, just what from those 2 years maybe in terms of building a team this past season?
I mean, if you look at what the teams were in 19 and 20 and what I learned from, I mean, I don't have a specific answer for that, Joe. As you work in this league, from every position I've been in, from an intern to a scouting assistant to a pro scouting director to player personnel to GM, whatever. You learn something at every single spot. There's never a time in this league where you don't learn something. So I think you got to be open-minded and adaptable, which I try to be. But just generally, you're just learning from year to year. But specifically from those years, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. Really just focus on this particular team this year and what we need to do to get in the playoffs and make a run at a championship, which I know we have the ability to do. But we got to prove it. We got to show it on the field.
And then just last thing for me, are the next 2 years vitally important because you've got a franchise quarterback on a rookie contract to where really that's kind of a gift in this league when you have that in terms of cap flexibility and what you can do to build the rest of the team?
This year is important to me right now. I don't believe in rookie quarterback windows. If you look at the playoffs this year, at least 10 teams had quarterbacks not on rookie deals. So the team that I used to work with, we had a high-paid quarterback for over 10 years, and we built the team just fine around him. You got to build it differently, but that certainly we can do it. I don't see that we only have a year or two window with this quarterback's contract. Not how I look at it at all. I think that's just a really bad narrative. But we're focused on this, 2022. What can we do in 2022 to go win a championship? It doesn't really bother me if the quarterback's on a rookie deal or if he's on an Aaron Rodgers deal. Either way, we'll make it work. That's what our job is, and like I said, we've done that before.